Hello everybody, welcome to We'd Rather Be Reading. I'm Jerrica.
And I'm Lia. It's so good to be back.
What did you do this week where you'd rather be reading?
Well, I didn't do anything where I'd rather be reading because I'd been reading this week. Oh my god, I read all of the books.
All of the books. All of them in the
I read all of them. I finished off the Bridget Kember series, The Curse Breakers. I read book 2 and 3.
So glad you caught up.
The whatever they call it.
I was feeling so alone when I finished it, and I was like, I need you to talk to me.
The third one is called Vows are Bold and Deadly, and the second one was called The Hearts are Fierce and Broken, I think. Yeah. Those two I read this week, and then Covet came out.
I know. We had to stop everything. Covet came out.
We had to stop everything because Tracy Wolf's Covet came out, and because we have read her first 2 books in this series, Crave and Crush, this was like non-negotiable. It had to be done. I'm not fully finished yet. I have about less than an hour left in the audiobook version. I think I know what's going to happen.
I don't know if you know, because there's a twist in the end. Because but at the end of every book is a twist.
Yes.
And at the end of every book, there's also a theme that follows. So I'm not going to give it away, but it's a theme, and something happens that also happened at the end of the last book, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be a new mate. For sure.
What? How did you guess that?
Because it's always a new mate at the end of every one of these books. Anyways.
Oh, so you're right. How does this girl get mated so often?
She gets mated again. I didn't know she was going to get mated. So no more Hudson, or does she have 2 mates?
I am so sorry that I spoiled this.
I'm shocked. We're going to have to cancel this recording. I have listening to do.
Bye.
Bye. It's good to talk to you. No. Yeah, we've listened to Covet, and so excited about these books, even though I have to say I hate Grace.
She's the worst.
She's the absolute freaking worst.
But Hudson and Jackson are the best, and everybody else is the best.
Every other character are fantastic. It's just Grace. I don't know how she has time to think so much. I don't have time to think so much.
No.
I've never thought so much in my entire life. I think I can take all of my lifetime thinking together, and I still have not had as many thoughts as Grace has during battles.
I was going to say, have you ever been in like a precarious situation where you either had to like defend yourself or go on the attack or something?
During this time, I would stop and think about all of my life choices up until that point. All of them.
It's like a flash, like the life flashes before your eyes, but this happens to her every second.
Every second. It's like she must be the most annoying person in the world to have a conversation with, because I'm sure between every sentence she has a little flashback and thinks for about 5 minutes.
You'd be like, Grace,
through all of the different interactions she's had with you up to that point. Every choice she's made, every decision, and she ponders and thinks about this, comes to the wrong conclusion, obviously, every single time, because why not? And then, Grace, I hate you.
Okay.
I don't want to be your friend. I'll take Hudson and Jackson.
I will happily take Hudson.
I'll take them off your hands. It will be all good.
I'm happy to be with everybody else in that book other than her.
Yeah. No, she's the worst. And she keeps going like, I'm so special. I'm, spoiler alert, a gargoyle.
No, that was a big spoiler alert, because that is the basis of this book, is that there's a lot of supernaturals, but only one gargoyle. And it's kind of unique because
there's 2 gargoyles.
Okay, but anyways. Semantics and Lia's continuity issues continue.
What? I don't know what you're talking about. No continuity.
Okay, so we read Covet, and then we're also finished reading
The Touch of Darkness. And also, because we have book club this week, I had to sit through outline.
Yes.
By someone, and it was quite torturous. I'm sorry to say. It's a book. It's not terrible. It's by Rachel Cusk. And I'm sure if I wasn't waiting, to begin Covet, I would have liked this a whole lot better.
Because I started Covet and I was like, F the book club book. I need to get into Covet. And you're like, if I start, I'll never stop. And that's actually the truth. That's what happened. I never stopped. I did not move to book club book during this Covet book at all.
But this outline book, it was 6 hours, and it was the longest 6 hours of my life.
Audio version.
Audio version.
Hmm. I appreciated that it was...
summarize it, though.
You can?
Yes.
Tell us.
Sure. It's about a writer who has been contracted to teach a writing course in Greece. So she flies there, gets into a conversation with her plane neighbor on the plane, makes plans to meet up with him because he tells her his life story, and she doesn't quite believe it because he embellishes a bit about his second wife in particular, especially about her looks and the way he felt about her. But they make plans to meet anyways when she is in Greece, and he takes her on a boating trip. And she keeps describing his body as being quite ugly. The descriptions of his body are quite fascinating, I found in this book actually, because it's like his fleshy back with the hair and it was not good. Yeah. And then she sees this as a friendship, and he sees this as a potential romantic thing. So he kisses her, and she doesn't kiss him back, and it gets a little bit awkward. And then she has this writing course, and everyone keeps telling her their stories. And then she goes to a restaurant, and this woman comes there, and she tells her story. So this whole book is about people telling this writing woman their stories. That's it.
So she's just like an open person, like a bartender kind of.
Yeah, and she doesn't share her story practically at all. It's her story being told through other people's stories. Anyways, enough about outline.
That was book club book.
Book club book.
But we finished the Persephone and Hades book, which we're going to talk about today, and hopefully you guys also have finished it. And then we are going to start on
our next book. Yes.
And that is called The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. And I'm on chapter 9 of that, so I'm actually quite in the beginning of it. But you finished.
Yeah, but we're only going to talk about the first
3 chapters.
So I will spoil nothing.
Okay, good.
But the touch of darkness here by Scarlett Sinclair is the Hades and Persephone story that we introduced last week. And we continued reading. And I started chapter 4 here because we finished at chapter 4. I think you may have, I don't know if you read too much on this one or not, but chapter 4 starts with continuity issues. In Lia's continuity corner.
Bum, bum, bum.
It's not a big thing, but a new character is introduced, and it's Minty.
Yeah.
But she gets named in the story before we actually find out her name, which makes it a bit awkward. There was all of my continuity issues for this point here.
That's not so bad.
Yeah. And so basically what happened in the first 3 chapters was that Persephone goes to this nightclub that's owned by Hades. She plays a game, gambling with him. He makes a deal with her. She has this mark on her wrist. She goes home. She wakes up the day after. The mark is still there. So now she's marching on Hades' club to find out what the frick this is. How do you take this off, and what does this mean?
Yep.
And he explains to her that they have made a deal, and she now has 6 months to create life in the underworld. Cheers. And she is... she's the spring goddess of spring, but her plant her plant growing powers are equal to mine, which means she will kill anything she touches.
But actually she does. Like when she touches things, they die.
I do too.
They wilt. I know. You sent me a picture of that poor plant where I was like, most of these plants don't even need water once a year, and somehow you managed to kill it. It's fascinating.
It's dying even faster now. I don't know what I did. It's my... It's gonna be another just
you should get this cane palm.
I have a...
Those are hardly killable.
I killed cacti.
Okay.
There's 3 dead cacti standing around on the counter in my house.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
Okay. You shouldn't be near plants.
No.
Those poor things. They're
I keep
supposed
cats
to give
alive,
us life.
though, so...
You keep cats alive.
Yeah, I haven't killed a single cat.
Or your children.
Or children. I mean, children. I managed to make mine up until freaking teenage years. This is great. I give my husband high fives for this all the time. Like, I'm like, look, they're not dead yet. We made it. And then we high five. But, you know, I think it's a great parenting here.
Goal.
Keeping the children alive. Yeah. But anyway, so she goes back to this club to confront Hades. She gets into a little bit of a thing with his doorman, and she has to show her goddess forms. And this here, we find out now that her goddess form has horns. Mm-hmm. And her eyes are an unnatural shade of green. And she's
like taller or something.
Yeah, and glowy, I think. A little bit glowy, yeah. And he gets all like, oh, I didn't know you were a goddess. And Hades gets down and he's all pissy because not just because she's a goddess and the doorman treated her poorly, but because she's a woman and the doorman treated her poorly. So we find out that Hades is a feminist, which is yay good.
Yay.
Yay. So he takes her down to the underworld. He shows her how to go there, and then he just kisses her, and she's all like, I'm fine with this.
Yeah,
this
she's
is
like
awesome.
Mouth smashing, tongue twirling.
Yeah, and I mean, even though she's pissed off at him and think he's evil, he kisses her and she's like, I'm on board.
Yeah, she's like, let me just tilt my chin up a little bit more so that you could somehow stick your tongue deeper into my throat, which
for sure.
I'm not so sure how sexy that is.
No.
That's not something I look forward to in a kiss, how deep back into my throat the kiss goes.
No.
But like, whatever, to each his own. So that's her thing. They kiss, and then she's like, oh, that happened.
And then he's all like, wait here in my office. And then she finds the stairs to the underworld. She falls down them. And then she just decides that I am an independent, strong woman. Whereas we know that she's dumb and not very bright. She goes wandering around the underworld. And then she finds the river. And she's like, oh, I'm just going to see what's in here. I'm sure I can swim across. Bad idea.
In the
I don't even
underworld.
know if she can swim across. Does she just get pulled in?
She just gets,
Yeah. Anyways, she almost gets drowned by these dead people in the river and has to be fished out by another god who just happens to be there, luckily, to save her.
That's Hecate or Hecate.
No, it's not Hecate. It's Hermes.
Hermes. Okay, but Hermes and Hecate, they also live in the underworld.
Well, Hermes is there a lot because he's the messenger of the gods.
Exactly.
So he travels around.
And so she makes friends with them, all while trying to make life in the underworld. She's very unsuccessful.
But she finds out that Hades is actually not an evil person. He's very kind to his souls, and he is lonely. That's what everyone keeps telling her, that he's very lonely.
She writes an article about him because she works for some writing magazine, and in the article, basically she says you could do better. And then he just takes it upon himself to do better.
But to go back to this article, so she has decided that as part of her internship at this newspaper, she's going to write an article about Hades. And she writes, like, after meeting him the first time, kind of getting the mark, that's when she starts writing this article. And it's quite a scathing kind of, it's not kind what she writes, and before she has a chance to actually send it in for to be published, this other guy Adonis, who we haven't really talked about Adonis yet, but he has a role to play in this. He also works at this newspaper, and he was with them when they went to Hades nightclub the first time, and he's described as being hot, but very cocky. And he reads the article when her computer is open. She catches him reading it, so she closes her and she's like, leave me alone. But then it turns out he has stolen it, which here, continuity, how the frick did he steal it off her computer when he wasn't even done reading it? And how come the editor didn't know about the article? Because she gets called in for the editor and he's like, what about this article? Oh yeah, it's my article. And she doesn't say that Adonis sent it, but isn't like the point of the editor to actually read all the stuff that gets before it gets published? Isn't that like kind of your job?
Yeah.
And this just leads me to think that anyone who has the login to this can just publish anything in this paper, which is scary. I understand why they get sued a lot, because if no one's proofreading this shit, then whatever, you can just post whatever. And then my next line here is that Persephone is so jealous.
Oh, yeah. No, she can't handle very much.
Oh, no.
But she's a young god, and she's, like, new to being a goddess, and in the form of that she doesn't really have her powers. And she knows that she should be better than everyone else, and she also knows that she is attracted and wants Hades. But then that means that she's acting like a silly teenager.
Oh, she's acting like a child. He treats her like a child. He's super harsh on her. He treats her like a child, and she's so jealous. And then she's all like, he freed something in me.
When
this is in chapter 14.
Okay.
No, chapter 4 I have this one. He freed something in her. And I'm like, what? What did he free? They never say. But I think it's passion he freed in her.
Okay.
This is my many question marks guess. Passion.
Okay, so he freed some passion, and she stops being, like, so bitchy, but she's still very, very jealous. Mm-hmm. And he tries to be the best man he could be, and creates a charity organization that helps people with addictions. And she's like, oh, okay, maybe he's not such a bad guy. Maybe I should give him a chance. And meanwhile, he's, like, pretty much fully in love with her. Yeah. But why?
We don't know. Because she's young, I think.
And she's a goddess.
He wants someone who's 1.5 million younger than him.
Okay, so we talked about this last week, but 1 million to 20 is probably It's the line. It's the line. It can't go over.
It's too big. The age gap here is too big. But I think he's fully in love with her. He's very patient with her. He's harsh with her, but he's also patient with her in a way. But he keeps he keeps punishing her. It's very much like she does something he doesn't like, so he takes away her ability to get in and out of the underworld without him. But she's also so she just goes out of her way to just piss him off by doing stuff too.
Anytime he asks her to do something, she just does the opposite.
Yeah. And then Minty here, who's Hades' assistant, who we find out has slept with him once.
Like 1,000 years ago.
More than that, I think. And she's been there since the beginning, according to this books. But she's in love with him, and I think she wants to be the queen of the underworld. She's a nymph. And she is trying to thwart their love here by telling Persephone that there's this magic spring that can help a garden grow, because she's planting a garden in the underworld, and because she has the same green thumbs that I do, it's not growing very well.
So they go to the magic spring, and then what happens? Because now it gets juicy.
Yeah, but she's trying to go to this magic spring, and then. Yeah, this was my prediction. I was very wrong about this prediction, actually, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But some of the phrases in this book. He had drank the passion and need from her body. You left me desperate with need, but I will be a generous lover. He impaled her over and over.
I know.
Yeah, there's some interesting section scenes in this book.
But so this is what happens. They go to the garden waterfall place, and he pleasures her for the first time ever, and she has no idea. First of all, she's a virgin because, of course, and because everyone's a virgin at 20, doesn't matter, whatever.
The inexperienced woman. This is a trope,
and he's going to teach her education.
Educate her.
Yeah, he's going to educate her, and she doesn't even know what did they call it? The nervous bundle, the bundle of nerves
at the apex of her V.
Yes.
Of her legs. Yes.
Yeah.
He touches that and she's like, whoa!
And then he's kind of like, tell me I'm the only man that's ever done this to you. And I think it was a little bit of a question of for real? Or was it I need to know I've been the only one?
I think it's the possessive kind. It's I need to know that there's been no one here before me because I am that kind of guy.
But that doesn't go towards his feminist behaviors.
No, he's not really a feminist. We all know he's not really a feminist.
I mean, he's Hades. Yeah. So she's like, oh, you have to teach me everything. I don't know anything. I don't even know what these bundle of nerves are. I've never touched it myself in my life. I can't even say that without laughing because it's ridiculous. Children know what it is. So, okay, she's 20 years old, a goddess, doesn't know that she has a clitoris. Okay, fine. Yep. This is the start of the story. So now he has to teach her everything. How boring. And and still, after that first time she gets her very first climax ever, she gets mad at him and leaves. Because Minty comes in and she's so jealous and she's like, oh, why is she here? I'm leaving now. I will never do this again. I hate you. And he's like, excuse me?
Yes. Because
I just drank from your pleasure center.
He pleasures her by this magic spring, and then they're at the castle, and then he needs to carry her all the way through the castle in his arms so that people will leave them alone. No, that's the second time, because Minty interrupts them the first time. Anyways, they have a lot of sex, they don't talk much. This is my super summary of the book.
Okay, good.
But and then it turns out here, after they've had many bouts of sex, and then
she's a pro now.
Persephone's mom comes back and imprisons her, but her magic has now been released.
Yeah. Because of the sex.
So she gets because of the sex. So she gets free, and then she finds out that this love that she thinks she has found with Hades is actually a deal that Hades made with Aphrodite, where Aphrodite won a gamble against Hades, and in order for him not to release one of the souls from the underworld, he would have to make someone love him in 6 months, and he would need to fall in love and make someone love him.
But this is like a real college-y thing, like, oh, I dare you. And then that's why they get into a fight and break up and stuff. So Hades and Persephone breaks up, but kind of half-sees, not really.
Yeah. And then Persephone turns Minty into a mint plant. And then she proceeds in not looking after her, much like I've done with many mint plants.
And then she brings the mint plant back to Hades at the end of the book, and she's like, whoops.
She plants it in the underworld.
Whoops, sorry, this is...
Yeah, this is your assistant. I accidentally turned her into a mint plant.
And then he's like, did she deserve it? And he's like,
yeah.
Yes. And he's like, why? Oh, she insulted me about my powers, but really it wasn't because of that. It was because she tried to sabotage the relationship.
Yes.
That would have been a better reason. Anyways, Minty becomes a mint plant. Hades and Persephone are together. And then this moves into book 2. And then there's also a book 1 that's his perspective of this book 1.
So we're not going to continue this series. If you want to read book 2 or Hades' perspective, you can do it at your own leisure, I would say, because we've given up. Or you haven't.
I didn't. I read all.
I gave up.
I read all the other ones. I think it is like super spicy, sexy relationship, although she's like really jealous and really makes bad decisions. But still, I like have hope for that he's going to make her a better person, even though he's like the god of the underworld.
But he's the god of the underworld. That doesn't mean he's evil. But it's still, like, we talked about this the last week. Yeah. His inky black hair, and then we talk about the fact that he seems to never have pants on. This we didn't talk about that the last time. But there seems to be a thing where he never has pants on.
Because it's a lot of talking about how he takes her clothes off, or that she wears, like, really skimpy dresses. So he has easy access to her. Again, there's a ton of section scenes in these books. And so she's always in a skimpy dress, and he's always like, oh, come sit on me. But then
he never takes off his pants.
He never takes off his pants.
So we assume that he has not.
Scarlett Sinclair, tell me,
have now come
is Hades wearing pants or not?
Please, Scarlett, tell us, is he wearing pants? But I see him, and I still struggle with this a little bit, because I insist, my brain insists on seeing Hades like the Disney version from Hercules.
So good.
You know, the disgusting one with the flaming hair. And I also then see him in his traditional Greek robes. But he also has a button-down shirt on, so I'm thinking he probably has a shirt underneath his Greek-style robes, which then would explain the no pants thing.
But she takes off the buttons of his shirt, but then, poof, there's no pants. But he doesn't magic his pants off. There's just no explanation. He just enters her. It's like, let me pull up your dress.
He impales her.
Come sit on me. I have now impaled you, because my penis is just flying free whenever I feel like it. But the section is pretty good. It's pretty decent section scenes.
I mean,
and it continues on to the next couple books in that pace.
To summarize, I would say that if you're looking for a fun light read, definitely go read it. It was a fun book. I didn't hate it, so this is always good praise for me. But it's not like a deeper love story. There's no... I guess we should maybe start bringing up what did you learn from this book. It could be a new section.
What did I
learn? What's the moral of this story? Yeah, that's what we want to...
Don't be a whiny...
Don't be dumb.
Don't be dumb.
Don't be dumb. We learned it. It's good. We're ready to move on. And the next book we're moving on to is The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. And we have read the first 3 chapters, but it is first time to judge this book by its cover.
Oh, yay.
And it only has the one cover. So we are lucky in that. It has the cover, which has a dagger or a sword.
With black and red, so you know that it's going to be...
things behind.
It's going to be dark and mysterious.
Of course. There we go.
It has the ruby in the middle.
Yeah, and
the ruby and the sword.
Black rose petals falling here.
Yep.
It looks a bit like it's in front of like a gate or something.
What do you think this book would be about if you just looked at this?
I would say magical sword or magical dagger.
Yeah, I think that it's like the sword in the stone, key to the kingdom kind of thing, because it looks a little bit like a door behind them.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm like, okay. This is how the king is going to reclaim his kingdom. But of course, we know now that's not what the book is about.
Oh, not at all. The Shadows Between Us is about Alessandra. I keep forgetting her last name. What's her last name? I can't remember.
Oh.
Her first name is Alessandra anyways.
Okay.
That much I know. And basically, she has a plan. Alessandra is a girl with a plan.
Yeah.
For sure. She has decided she will seduce the king, get him to marry her, and then she will kill him and take his kingdom.
That's amazing. And she's bitch.
And she is confident. She juggles lovers like it's her job. And she dismisses her dad with some serious barbs here.
And in the first chapter, she kills one of her lovers. So she's also not...
the first man she ever loved, she killed him and buried him in a trunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he decided he didn't want to be with her. So yeah, we know she's quite badass. She's a
I mean, like a tiny bit of a psycho.
Oh my goodness, yes.
You know, when they talk about crazy eyes, it's like you know that girl's got a little crazy behind her if her eyes go all buggy. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this girl has full-blown crazy eyes.
Oh my god, yes. She's the kind of girl where you would look at her, and this is going to sound horrible when I say it, so I'm not sure if I should continue. Should I continue here? But this is what would be referred to as someone who would probably be crazy good in bed. But not really motherhood materials necessarily.
What is it? It's the freak in the sheet, lady in the street, freak in the sheet, something like that. But that's not her. She's just a freak in the sheet, and she's also a freak on the streets. This girl is batshit crazy, and you're going to love her.
Oh my god, yes. She's my favorite part of this book.
We read first 3 chapters, and in the first 3, she goes to the court.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, the lessons of the first 3 chapters is how... lesson in the first 3 chapters is very simply broken down as to how to trap a king. You dress in other colors than his favorites. You ignore him. You don't greet him. You avoid eye contact. And you dance seductively with your dad. And you dance with the king without touching him. And you jump at the chance to move into the castle after exchanging 3 words with the king.
Nailed it.
Then I accidentally listened a bit into chapter 4 too. Whoops, I got too into the story. Yeah. But my plot prediction here, because this is basically what happens. She goes to this ball that the king has thrown. And all the eligible women in the kingdom are lining up here to meet the king. Yeah. And her dad's like, oh, you say you're going to marry the king?
He's 19.
Let's queue up here. The dad's not 19.
The king is 19. But I mean, like, they want him to get married, so there's a lot of women there.
They want him to have heirs.
Yeah, there's a lot of women there who want to court him.
Yeah. So, and she's like, I'm not getting in line. I'm too good to queue. So she just decides to ignore him. And this king, he's like, what the frick? All these other women are lining up to see me. What the frick? This one doesn't even look at me. So he obviously gets really intrigued. On top of that, she's wearing this dress with like pantings that shows off her legs, which is outrageous in this court. So... clearly, she gets his attention. So he comes up to her and basically say, why didn't you come see me? And she's like, I don't care. And then he wants to dance. And then they dance. And she's not allowed to touch him. There's a rule. If you go within a certain distance of the king, you will be killed. This is a rule.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
you can't touch
5 feet from the king or something like that. And you will be killed if you step within that.
So your prediction was...
So dancing was very hard. My prediction is... Our hard-ass heroine, Alessandra, is playing a dangerous game. She plans to kill the king and take his kingdom. She's a girl with a plan, and she has practiced her skills to fulfill it. However, I believe she failed to plan for falling in love. I think there's more to this story than the simplistic plan of killing and taking the kingdom. I think she will love him, and they will together fight whatever other threat that he is hiding from with his shadows and his rule of not being touched. I do not predict a love triangle, and I do not predict democracy.
You sound so upset at that.
Yes.
Do you know what I predict? After reading the first 3 chapters, I had to stop because the last 2 books I went on to read the 4th chapter, and I was like, damn it, I'm not following our own rules. But this one, I was like, okay, chapter 3. Okay, write your prediction. I was in the car, so I started to dictate to my notes. Hey Siri, can you write down that I predict murder?
Yes.
I predict murder. I think she's hilarious and a real bitchy person, so I think she will manipulate her way into the king's life, but there will be a twist that he's been playing her the whole time and other secrets behind this and knows her game. There's going to be many games being played within this book, but after all, she'll fall for him, and then, big twist, he says, gotcha!
Well, we're gonna have to keep reading to find out what happens. And this one is fun and refreshing, I'd say, after Persephone's ditzy dumb
and Grace's
inner monologues. This one is quite a refreshing, I think, book to read.
Cool
because
personality.
She is so different from any other main character that I've read about before. So I'm excited.
Good. Let's go. I'm going to go read it now. Bye.
Yeah. Absolutely. We are ready.
Now follow along with us. It is The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. Let us know what you think is going to happen in the rest of this book, because she's a little bit of a wild card. So I think there could be some really cool predictions happening out there. Let us know what you think about the cover too. And catch us next week when we talk about the book.
Yes, it's going to be exciting. Read along with us, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
We'd Rather Be Reading is an original podcast by Jerrica and Lia. The music for The Penguins, written and performed by David Allred from the album The Transition, courtesy of Erased Tapes. Please check him out on Spotify and check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at We'd Rather Be Reading and on Twitter at We'd Rather Read. You can also email us at we'dratherbereadingthepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.